Alright, Jay, I have converted the LEDs in your center cluster for your 350Z to blue, white needles. I'm going to do your car in reverse order. I usually start with the main cluster, but its temperature is going to like 0. So I figure I will take my center console out while it's about 32 degrees out there, put this in, set it, and maybe do the HVAC tonight before it gets too darn cold, so I can use my own HVAC to stay warm while I work on the main cluster. So I'm going to go out and see how it looks and put some needles on it. Okay, center section in, and actually it's my gauge was reading just a touch higher than it normally does. I don't know if that's because it's 29 degrees. Maybe it says it's warmed up over here on my temp gauge. But, oh, and I did top it off with oil. Yeah, put it in a quart yesterday. Maybe it only needed 7/8. But that you know, that should read correct on your unit. I see you went for the chrono style gauges. Cool little icon over there on the, well, I don't think we can see it. Yep. There it is. Well, not that great shot. It's cool little icons that Black Cat did. So I'm going to put this in the case. I'm freezing my fanny off. And I've done part of the HVAC. And so let's put this in the case and carry on. All right. All right. Have your center cluster back in the case. But my car is totally cold here. It says 29, but I guarantee that wind makes it feel a little colder. So I'm not going to rev it up or anything. That needle will go back down when it warms up. So I'm going to unplug your triple gauge and put my center console back together so I can test your HVAC, because I have it complete. And here we go. All right, turn on the headlights. Oh yeah. Could use a windshield to defrost that back now. Let's see here. And of course, we really can't see the ring dials very well because of so much backlight until you get it mounted. But no problem on this, on the 03 to 05. They always work. So this will look great. Like I say, your little rings here, they're white on the edge, but you're seeing so much of the backwash from what actually lights those up. So, and everything's all smooth and working fine. So now I'm going to start on your main gauge cluster. Here we go. Jay, all right, I've got your main cluster together. However, you sent your parts in pieces. You kept the case, which is cool. That means you're, you know, pretty efficient at doing this stuff. You didn't send an LCD, so let's see if I can focus on this one. Not really. So I had an LCD in a jar, and I remember now after going out to set the speedometer why I had it in a jar. Actually, this one has the film on the back side of the LCD removed. We were trying to do something custom for another customer, so therefore you can actually see the 4 LEDs shining through the LCD, which kind of makes it suck. So you're gonna have to take this apart and put your LCD back in there. I'll just leave this one in there. It's worth nothing now. It was worth nothing before I put it in here, but I'd forgot. That's why I had it. So your shift lights in here, you're going to want to dim it down some for that to have a greater effect, but it is in there. Here's another note for you, and I haven't done it because it's hard to tell which one's been done, but after you put your needles on and just go out on the freeway, set your cruise control. I have your cruise control and your set cruise and your dynamic vehicle control or traction control system, and the slip light over here. Those are in blue, and I put some gel in here so that This one's not so bright, but so I go out and I set the car going at 60 miles an hour according to the center gauge. Well, it's 26 degrees and it won't show me miles an hour out on the freeway. I would use my dash command here, but it's always off by a couple of miles an hour, and you're gonna have to set it anyway. So I set it at like 40 miles an hour. But anyway, the point I was gonna get to is once you set your mile an hour, before you put your cluster back together, you're going to want to take some clippers and cut like just a tiny edge off the speedo. Otherwise, it'll rub when you get up to 80 and the 90. It'll just stick because this looks round, but it's not really round. And so you'll just want to cut whichever needle. And the reason I'm not cutting one is because so you don't have two that are cut. So after you put it together, cut that. And I'm about to go in and do your side lights in white. To set your temperature, make sure your car's warmed up. And I always set it without my seatbelt on. And the needle points at the dude's little foot, right below the dude's foot. And I always fill up my car and set it like that. You just want to see just a touch of black above the top spot of the needle. So, but it looks good, and like I say, on your shift light, it'll definitely have more effect if you just dim down from the side over here when you have your cluster together, about 3 or 4 clicks, and that baby will wake right up. So, inside to make the white lights for the sides, and watch the Cowboys and Tampa Bay battle it out on Sunday night. All right, sir. Okay, here's another note for you, Jay. When you go to take this apart, you'll start to cut your gauge face off, and it won't come off. There's some Scotch tape right there, and over here, just to hold it down flat while I go out and set needles. And I always just leave it on there. So just take it off with your thumb, and then if you want to take the whole thing apart to like look at my work or whatever, there's also some tape. Almost saw it shine just a second ago. Right there. There's a piece of tape right there and a piece of tape up here that hold this plastic piece down flat. Because I've noticed over the years that sometimes the fuel gauge won't work correctly because this is not together. Don't ask me why. Some of them it's that way and some of them not. So anyway, there's your note, and where are your little white LEDs? Here are your little white LEDs for the side controls, and I'm fixing to install those now. All right.